What do you think about when I say sexy talk in marriage? That's what we're going to talk about today. And maybe it's not what you think what we're going to talk about. So stay tuned. This is the Road to Happiness podcast. We're your hosts, Josh and Cassie Spurlock. Our sponsor is My Counselor Online, leading provider in Christian counseling online. And we love sexy talk in marriage.
We do love sexy talk. In all of its different forms.
I know, right? But today, the kind of sexy talk we're going to talk about is real talk, conflict resolution talk, intentional, wise communication. What is it? How do we do it? Let's get really practical.
Yeah, I'm a Christian sex therapist and have done thousands of hours of therapy with couples, helping them achieve their goals in the bedroom, overcome the obstacles that they have. And we distilled, the learning from those thousands of hours into our new book, Feeling Sexy. And what is surprising to a lot of folks when they start sex therapy or they learn about sex therapy is that the foundational components of sex therapy are really about having a really strong, healthy relationship. That having the ability to communicate well emotionally is a necessary predecessor to being able to talk about sex. Sex is a very vulnerable topic. Parenting, money, and sex are the top, three things that couples fight about relationally. And it's because they're vulnerable in nature. There's a lot of emotional charge around those things. But you can't have a really vibrant, healthy sex life without being able to have good communication about sex. Like God designed it that way. Like it's not like animals going at it. Like He designed it to be an intimate thing where we connect and reflect His image in that connecting, which means having intimacy, dialogue, and conversation with one another. And so when we talk about sexy talk, we're talking about being able to have good communication with each other, good conflict resolution skills that then we can apply to our sex life.
And if you're feeling really sad right now about what this sexy talk chapter is about, just stay tuned because we'll have another sexy talk chapter that we'll talk about other sexy talk.
Yeah, that one's called Dirty Talk in that section.
Because we got to set the foundation for that with this.
Yeah, it's so key that we're able to have our relationship mechanics in line if we're going to have a really vibrant, powerful, fun, dynamic sex life. And so, yeah, let's get into it. What does that mean when it comes to communication? I think one of the things that we talk about in this chapter is it's not about the male. I don't know if you've seen that skit or not, that short film on YouTube. I love it. As a marriage therapist.
Yes, he's like every time he watches it.
It captures so well and with such good comedic relief that if you have not seen it, add it to your go search and find and watch. It will enrich your life a little bit. But the premise of it is the thing that we're fighting about is rarely the thing that we're fighting about.
Yes, so real.
Whether it's
have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, whether it's sex, whether it's parenting, whether it's money, or any of the other plethora of things that we could be fighting about, what we're really fighting about is the emotional dynamics that exist underneath that topic.
Yep, fighting for feelings of safety, fighting for feelings of being loved or not being abandoned, and sometimes they don't even have to do with our spouse. So many times they're from wounds or gaps in our story previously, and we get the opportunity to invite our spouse in to help us explore that and to heal those things. That's, again, we talked about in an earlier chapter, what God does through marriage. He exposes things that need healing, that need maturing, and our spouse gets to be part of that process with us.
Joy.
So, dude, you know what? Even when like we're real good at this now, right? Okay, but
now that's because lots of practice, lots of failing,
and therapy.
Yeah.
Like we were not good at it. We didn't have any framework for it, and it's okay if you don't either, because you can learn it. This is a learnable skill. And not only is it a learnable skill, but it will not only benefit your sex life, it will benefit every relationship in your life for the rest of your life. So buy wisdom and do not sell it. I could not overstate how powerful open-hearted communication is. Of course, with safety parameters based on who you're talking with.
Yeah. So we have to be able to be willing to talk about the hard things. No pun intended. This isn't just a sex talk, not just in the bedroom, but in life in general. Because if we have unresolved conflict in our marriage, it will creep its way into our bedroom. We're not able to compartmentalize those things in a way that keeps one from bleeding into the other. Like the unresolved things that are swept underneath the rug in our marriage and our life will interfere with our sex life. They will.
Because they're still in our body. Like they didn't go anywhere. They're still wired into our nervous system. And they tend to come out at the worst possible moments, or the most uncomfortable possible moments, if we don't deal with them when we have the opportunity.
Yep. And so we got to be willing to lean into conflict instead of run away from it. And if we don't have the skills for doing that, we got to get those skills. We got to find sages, marriage mentors, couples that have a really fantastic communication and conflict resolution ability in our church community, in our family, getting professional help with a counselor, somebody that's got the skills that we don't have to help us cultivate those skills so that we can develop that capacity for emotional intelligence, which includes the ability to be aware of what it is we're feeling, be aware of what others are feeling, to verbalize and communicate what it is that we're feeling. Because if we can't attune to our own emotional experience, then we can't identify the cycle that's operating underneath our conflicts. Because it's not about the content, right? It's not about the nail. And so if we aren't able to understand what it is about for us underneath that, then we can't share about that with our spouse. And therefore, we can't actually get to the heart of the issue and resolve the heart of the issue. And this is why so many couples have the same fights over and over and over again. It's like another episode of the same series, or another line of the same song or something like that. What was that? Same song, different verse? I don't know. But
a little bit louder and a whole lot worse.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going with that. It just continues on because we're never addressing the thing that's underneath of it, because we may not have the tools to be able to do that. And emotional intelligence is one of the tools that enable us to do that. Now, got to say this in like every episode, because the enemy is the accuser of the saints, and he likes to shame us into shutting down into silence and isolating, because when we're disconnected from the body, we're weak and we're vulnerable and we stay stuck. And so when we feel shame, we hide, and when we hide, we stay stuck.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have these skills, it's not your fault. None of us come from the womb having good communication skills. None of us come from the womb with emotional intelligence. We have the capacity for those things because God wired them into us and built those things into us. But we're not born with those capacities developed. It requires life-giving experiences that develop those capacities and bring that maturity in those domains in order for us to be able to live it out. And so if you don't have that capacity today, it simply means you haven't had the life-giving experiences necessary to develop those capacities that God designed into you. And that's really good news. It means you're not broken, you're just immature. And then maybe that feels tough, sharp to hear in that, but it's actually good news, right? Because immaturity is curable. It's not something fundamentally broken about you. You just haven't had the experiences you need in order to mature those capacities. So as you seek out and lean into those life-giving experiences, as you seek out iron sharpeners, peers who are on this journey with you, who are growth-oriented and are trying to grow in their abilities also, and sages and mentors, people who are a little bit further down the road than you in this domain, they can have experiences with you that model this and allow you to engage in new ways that cultivate that capacity. And then you have the ability to do what you couldn't do before. You can have conversations. We can have conversations that we couldn't have before.
Oh, yeah.
There are many things that didn't go well when we tried to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like it just was not fun. And a lot of that had to do with my immaturity. I just didn't have the capacity to have those conversations well. I wanted to. I didn't like the way I showed up immaturely in those situations. Like I could see it in hindsight and have regrets about how I showed up in those situations, but I felt a lot of shame around showing up the best I knew how and not knowing how to show up any differently, but also knowing that it wasn't good and wasn't getting the job done.
And you also didn't know how to fix it by yourself.
Couldn't. It really took for me having a really good therapist in my life that helped me unpack the wounds and the gaps that were in the way and facilitating different kinds of conversations between the two of us that cultivated the capacity to be able to have those kinds of conversations without a therapist.
I know, I remember going to therapy like the first time and our therapist being like, instead of saying what you don't like about this situation, what are you hoping for in this situation? What is your wish or your desire in this situation? And us both being like, you want this, I want, oh, we want the same thing or something so similar. And it just being, we just didn't know how to be each other's teammate. And, you know, that's part of the really practical pieces of it. It's like we get into enemy mode when these wounds come up for us or these gaps, and we start to duke it out when really we should be asking, why might my spouse be feeling this way? And just inviting them, what do you think? Like, try to take ourselves out of it. What do you think makes you feel that way? What do you think that's about? Oh, when I said this, it made you feel lonely. It made you feel abandoned. Yeah, I don't want you to feel that way. I care about you. I didn't mean to make you feel that way by what I did or said. It's a very different framework. It's a very different team-oriented strategy.
Yeah, and a book can't give you that.
Yeah.
Like, it never ceases to amaze me how what I know doesn't translate into what I'm able to do. That head knowledge isn't the same as heart transformation. That head knowledge is not the same as capacity development within us. You know, at the time that Cassie and I started doing therapy together and growing in these areas in our life, I've been a therapist for quite a while. And I knew conceptually, the things that the therapist was going to say then. And so it was like, what is the point of this? I know exactly what I'm going to say because I facilitate these experiences with people all the time and see the transformation that takes place. But my knowing the truth of these things didn't translate into giving me the capacity to do them. I had to have new life-giving experiences in order to cultivate that capacity within myself and move what I knew into my being and what I was able to do as a result of it. That's what brought about the maturity. And so, listening to this podcast, reading our book, reading any other book that's out there is not going to give you the capacity to do these things. It's not going to mature you in and of itself because knowledge doesn't transform, experiences transform, which is why it requires other humans by God's design. It requires our iron sharpeners. It requires our sages to help facilitate new experiences that translate that knowledge into maturity, into character development, into capacities to live differently. So I love head knowledge. I love to read. I love to learn. I get a lot out of reading other people's books, listening to podcasts. Like, I love it. And I know that that in and of itself isn't going to cause me to continue to mature and develop as a person. So,
and we wish we could have all of you come to our house and sit on our couch and that we could personally mentor you. That would be so joyful to us. But we can't. You got to find those people in your life, in your circle. God has them in mind for you because he wants this for you, because maturing is the way that we more richly experience the abundant life that is literally what Christ came to give us.
Yeah. And you can connect with somebody on our team. Like, sometimes having a professional counselor like we did to help us work through these things can be an incredible resource in that journey. And that's where our team, my counselor online, such a resource that we love, because while we can't sit with everybody, we do personally train and develop the therapists that are on our team so that they're able to take what it is that we've learned in the neuroscience informed Christian counseling model, that NIC model, and use it to help facilitate life-giving experiences for folks that develop these capacities. So whether it's somebody in our team or somebody that God has placed in your life, we want to encourage you to reach out, find those people, engage those mentoring relationships so that you can translate this head knowledge about the importance of good communication and effective conflict resolution into life-giving experiences that actually give you the capacity to do those things. And that will be transformative for your marriage and your sex life.
For sure, because your sex life is limited to the amount of emotional depth that you can experience with each other.
Yeah, and your just ability to communicate about the vulnerable and awkward things that come up in sex. Like, good sex requires good communication between your spouse. Like, God designed it that way. Like, you can't not have a really rich, vibrant sex life and not have good communication. Just not possible. So, lay a foundation for your sex life, work on your communication, and that sexy talk.
And we'll see you in a future chapter for Dirty Talk.
This is the Road to Happiness podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you again soon.